Hey guys, it's David Jackson Jr., your Peak Perseverance coach. I'm very excited because I've got a message to share with you today that I think is going to really transform your efforts towards success. In fact, what I'm talking about is the foundation of my practice and one of the biggest things that I believe in. In our quest for success, there's one thread that runs through everything, whether you're listening to audio, whether you're talking with coaches, whether you're attending seminars. One of the threads that weaves through the success genre is the concept of peak performance. We always hear about peak performance being something that we optimally strive for, that's going to be our proverbial golden ticket to success. Well, today I'm here to tell you that that's a myth. In fact, the entire peak performance philosophy is a myth. The real key to success and high achievement is something quite different. It's peak perseverance. High achievers in almost any walk of life will tell you that the key to unbridled success is peak perseverance. As an entrepreneur, I've launched million-dollar ventures that have been very, very successful, and conversely, I've been at the helm of million-dollar ventures that crashed and burned. And while I can tell you that the successful ones are much more rewarding, we learn from both. In fact, we'd be well advised to take the wisdom of Rudyard Kipling in his great poem If, when he says that if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters exactly the same. And that's the takeaway that I want you to have from this. Both triumph and disaster are imposters. Because in our quest for success, it's not about finding some magical, mythical, mystical destination. It's about the journey. And as we take that journey, it's important that we understand what it is we're trying to do to accomplish our goals. As an example, let me start by giving you a commonly held definition of peak performance. Peak performance has been described as a state of superior functioning whose characteristics are clearly focused attention, lack of concern with outcome, effortless performance, perception of time slowing down, and a feeling of supreme confidence. Let's look back and talk about those things a little bit. When we talk about superior functioning, have any of you had to deal with a crying baby in the middle of the night? Or been cramming for a final exam? How's that superior functioning work when those are the criteria, when that's what's going on? And then peak performance delves into the issue of clearly focused attention. Anybody experience a nagging spouse or significant other? How clear is your attention at times like that? And then we talk about a lack of concern with the outcome. How can you not be concerned with the outcome when you're wondering how you're going to pay the next month's mortgage or continue to pay the rent? Oh, and then there's that real gem, effortless performance. Oh yeah, effortless performance is really easy when you're looking at a situation where you've taken too many sick days as you're trying to bootstrap your venture and make your way to success. I don't know how effortless you feel at that time. Oh, and then there's the perception of time slowing down. Time does just the opposite when your stomach is churning in knots and bubbling and you need to stay near a toilet. And finally is that feeling of supreme confidence that's one of the bedrocks of peak performance. How confident can you be when every single thing that you're striving for is dependent upon the success of your endeavor? That goes to show that this notion of peak performance isn't quite as easy and isn't quite as magical as we think it is, nor is it even practical in many ways. Now conversely, let me give you the description of what perseverance is. The verb persevere comes from the Latin root perseverus, which means to continue steadfastly. And then it comes from persist, and that word comes from two others, per for very and severus for strict. So today, the connotation of the word is to persist in a methodical way despite obstacles and distractions. Isn't that a lot more realistic in terms of what life is? You're never going to have a golden road that's effortless where you're not concerned with outcomes and when time stands still. The reality is we often operate in a state of chaos. Not necessarily a negative chaos, but since life is dynamic and not static, things are always going on. We don't have a perfect essence of being. We don't have some clear, serene road where there are no obstacles or things to distract us from what we're trying to do. There are literally tons of things going on around us that are demanding our time and our attention. So rather than feeling as though we can perform in a peak way, living in a serendipitous environment where everything is unfolding according to plan, we have to think more in terms of living in a chaotic state or in a state of action and constant movement. Now, before you doubt what I have to say, let me give you some real-life examples of peak perseverers, those who have gone above and beyond to achieve great success. Somewhere near the turn of the century, there was a humble man. He was enterprising, he had big dreams, but he had failed at 5 different businesses in 5 different industries. And by failure, I mean he had bankrupted 5 companies. And by most measures of the day, and even the measures of today, that man would be seen as an abysmal failure and certainly not a peak performer. But that little man persevered, and he founded a little company that you may have heard of. It's called the Ford Motor Company, and the man's name was Henry Ford. That's peak perseverance. Or for another example, how about the humble, divorced, single mom aspiring to be an author? She was broke, barely had a place to stay, was living on welfare. She had had her book rejected by the same publisher 12 different times. How many of us could willingly fight through the rejection of 12 different denials? Yet she persevered. And on the lucky 13th try, that failed manuscript, called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, made J.K. Rowling a household name and a wealthy woman around the entire world. And lastly, let's look at someone from the artistic community. A man who, for the entirety of his life, never lived in an environment of economic security. And not only that, he suffered from mental illness. Well, today that man's paintings are among the most recognized in the world. His name was Vincent van Gogh, and they sell for millions of dollars whenever they happen to come up for auction. So at the end of the day, success is about legacy and shining your light, leaving something behind. And there's no better example of that than a man who failed 1,000 times before finally flipping the switch that became known as the incandescent light bulb. Yes, that man was Thomas Edison, and I'll close with his words. Edison said, "Many of life's failures were people who did not realize how close they were to success and then gave up." So I would say to you today, instead of seeking peak performance, instead of looking for that ephemeral state where you're all charged up and hyped and ready to go, remember it's a journey. It's the long game. You do the best you can amidst all the obstacles, crises, and distractions that come up, and you win at the end. That's what it's about. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you will practice the principle of peak perseverance, I can assure you that no one will keep you from achieving high success. Hey, if you like this video, please hit the like button to let me and other prospective viewers know it. And by all means, leave a comment. And if you'd like to get more insights and effective strategies to pave your path to success, then take action and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the road to success.